So I remember as a kid, and I mean, we've still played this game. It's kind of fun when you get a bunch of people around, maybe new people that you don't know. The game is called Would You Rather? And it's, you know, would you rather have wings or could you breathe underwater? Or would you rather have, so let's say you pick, in my case, I'd pick wings. Okay, so then you try to make it tougher for that person to hang on to wings. So you'd say, like, would you rather have wings or bionic legs? And so this is kind of a fun game that, we've played with kids and everybody. Well, one of the options was, would you rather have the ability to have the power to mind read? Now, that is your teaser for today's episode. I want you to keep that in mind as we get into it today. Sean, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, Tony. I really appreciate you for having me. Thank you so much.
Hey, so did you ever play that game?
I did. In fact, I don't know if I should say this, but like me and my friends in my 20s had a more adult version of that game.
Oh,
So,
do
but it was,
tell, dude. Well,
yeah.
maybe we shouldn't tell. I don't know. But hey, that's what happens after you start, maybe going to the pub and having a good time, right?
No, exactly. No, for sure. And yeah, we've had long nights of doing those pub crawls. I don't know if I told you this. I lived in the UK for a few years in my, I would say, mid 20s, and I've had a many pub crawls. Sometimes like crawling back in for, not on two legs, but just
It's
trying to
literally the
reach.
pub crawl, and that's
It's
exactly what
literally a pub
happens.
crawl,
Right,
exactly.
right, right. You just gotta survive and make your way back. Well, it's kind of, I was thinking about our episode today because, the being able to read someone's mind to understand kind of what they're thinking, is dangerous in a personal sense, right? I personally would not want the ability to read mind because I don't want to know people. I don't want to know what people are thinking about me. I'd rather
Yeah.
just live in oblivion. But in a business context, if you could figure out, what people were thinking about as you're entering in the sales and marketing process, I think this could be huge. So that's our a little extra teaser for people. But I want to give people a little more of an insight into you because you started, I guess, the majority of your career was at Rolls-Royce,
Yeah, about a decade of my career
almost a
is
decade, right?
yeah, at
So,
Roll. Yeah.
so let me ask you this: Aren't the roles? Aren't you able to customize those, like totally customize it for the end user?
So I would say the part of Rolls Royce that was not actually the car part. So that was, as far as I know, was a license. The name was licensed to BMW. So BMW actually builds the cars. What we
Mm.
did, so it's like RPLC. We did the kind of like the airplane engines, um, train engines, marine engines for fighter jets, things like
Well,
that.
maybe it was Bentley. I was thinking that there was a certain car that you could really kind of dial it in and customize it. So it's probably wasn't Rolls. It has that, it's just obviously that high-end luxury car. It might have been a different model. That's just a little out of my bracket. That's really it's not my vibe. The Rolls is kind of not my vibe. It's really not my thing. But then you move on, VP product at Premier Digital. And by the way, are you still on the marketing advisory board for UNLV?
We are, or I am, since I would say almost 2 years now, and it's been very, at least fruitful. It's like like helping kind of like the students and just making sure that we make an impact, right? So I do a lot of kind of engagements with high school students as well.
Oh,
Um,
that's really
yeah,
fantastic. Catching them early so they can get kind of get an idea for what life and business is. And I mean, our high schools do such a poor job of getting kids ready
yeah.
for college or beyond college, just into life. So I think the more, just business people and entrepreneurs can get down in there and have those conversations. I mean, I think only good can come from that. So what I'm trying to figure out is, so by the way, I'm hearing your mic a little bit. Like, are you bumping it or knocking it a little bit?
I am. Like your intro music
Just
uh
booming,
was
rocking.
so booming that I was just, like I was just starting to dance. But let me see if I move it a little bit.
There we go. I just, I want everyone to hear the declarative story very clearly. I think that's better. So, I'm just curious. So, given kind of your background, in business and, for these companies that I've mentioned, what gave you that spark, that idea that you needed to get into and become the CEO founder of Claritative AI? What's the kind of the backstory around that?
So yeah, there's actually a really good story, and in fact, and this is like a follow up to that story. It's like I lived in Germany for about 3 years, so that's the end, right? Or that's the kind of like the follow up. So the starting point of that is I was leading a product at Rolls Royce at that time. I had the best team. Like I had data scientists, engineers from Microsoft, from MCS, so Microsoft Consulting Services, and we basically did everything right. We did like stakeholder interviews, agile sprints, whatever you do for like how you're supposed to act as an like for digital development, for product development. We did it, like design thinking, everything, right? And after like 3 sprints of that engagement, we demoed to the VP of power systems, and he like destroyed us. I mean, you can hear a pin drop in that meeting room. Um,
That's just devastating when someone just drops the hammer on you like that.
it is definitely, and
It's like no empathy, no. I mean, it's just not trying to coddle you or say good job or here's what we like. It's just Gallagher bringing down the mallet on the watermelon. Just bam,
no, exactly, and like, but there's a good thing that happened because of it. Because
silver
what he said,
lining.
there's a silver lining. What he said was like, you don't understand us as a customer, and that like that hit hard, right? Because as product people, we're supposed to be this big, like, yeah, we know everything, right? We know how to, we know what customers want. We know how to build these products. Like product managers, there's, for the longest times, we're like, we are the CEO of our product. So there's that arrogance there. And then when you hear that, and not just for myself, for the entire team, it was a painful, it was a painful experience. So we had to revisit. It's like, did we actually understand? Did we actually understand what like what they were talking about, what those stakeholder interviews really mean, or were we just trying to validate our own assumptions?
Yeah,
And
you're
that was
trying. It's like you're trying to back. It makes total sense, right? I mean, you know what your solution set is. And so
exactly.
you kind of work from that framework of, well, this is what we do. So naturally, it's got to make sense to fit into your company or your problem has to sync with our solution.
No, for sure. And because again, like, because most product, like product people, product managers, product development engineers, they are so, or we are so in love with our product that we lose track of why we're building it in the first place. And it's not for us. It's for the customers, right? It's for the people that's actually using it. And that comment actually, like I said, it hit hard. So what do we do, right? So we, like revisited. We tried to understand. We tried to actually like, okay, what is the problem that we're fixing? And surprisingly enough, like you said, like I lived in Germany for 3 years. The end result of that was after a couple sprints, that same VP, we did this, like same demo, total 180, right? Like loved what we were doing, loved it enough, loved it so much that they were building a digital team in Germany for power systems, and they brought me in. they basically, like say, "Hey, Sean, would you like to join our team?" And I was like, "Sure." It was a great, and I'm still very thankful for that experience. This is one of the,
You did
I
such
want
a
to say,
great job that they poached you from your customer, or I mean, from
yeah, it was just
your
different. It was
employer.
different departments in at Rolls. So it's not like I'll be going from one company to the other.
Okay. Maybe I missed that. I'm sorry, I missed that. So it's an internal.
It's an internal, exactly. Yeah,
Okay, sorry, I wasn't tracking.
yeah. So I was part of, I guess, what we were calling Rolls Royce Digital at that time, and then basically went to the Power Systems business unit.
Got it. So that's when you really knew you had kind of changed the way in which you go through those intakes and sprints to learn what kind of product to make. But now we've got the advent, of course, AI. AI has it's kind of a fun time, honestly, to be in business right now because 50 years from now, 40 years from now, it's going to be so just embedded into everything. We're going to be the people who literally lived just before it and now during the implementation and transformation. Like we're at the front, truly, like we're at the front end of this thing.
No, for sure, and I truly believe that as well because like this is, and I did a talk about this a couple years ago. Like we're at the precipice or the beginning of a global kind of like human transition, like just like the wheel, just like nuclear power, just like the internet, computers. Like this, the time that we're at now is the turning point of, it's almost like an evolution, right, of where we're going to be as a as a species, to using a tool, because in the end, an AI is a tool. It's a tool that we can use as people to make ourselves better. It's not like you always see these memes on like online where like like this is a person, and like you do great job, and this is a person, and this is AI by itself, and you're just like, it's sort of not doing an okay job, or it's making these like bad things, and then but this is a person using AI. It's like exponential, because if you understand how to use it, if you understand what to use it for, if you understand how to implement it within your workflow, then
But
you're so
that's the
much
trick,
better.
though, isn't it? I mean, that's sort of where we're at right now is people are trying to figure out which one which tool do I pick and how do I fit it in? And so a declarative AI, do I say declarative AI or do you say declarative? Which is it?
I personally, I say declarative, and as much as possible, I try not to say AI, because everything is an AI company. Like, or everybody is trying to be an AI company, even the ones that like are not, um, or probably like does something a little bit within that space.
Yeah, it's kind
And they
of
can, yeah.
it's like
Um,
technology washing. We had greenwashing for a while. Everyone was kind of throwing that on the labels. So now everything is AI. Okay, so now that you've kind of had the build up into your thought process and kind of where you came from, give everyone, and myself included, because I have not done a deep dive, right? You guys, I mean, you were referred to me, and I thought this was kind of, I knew enough about it that I thought, this it'd be fun to go in here and just for me to kind of like look under the hood and try to figure this thing out. So give everybody the 30,000-foot view. What's the problem that Clarative is solving for?
so like for us, the main problem is conversation. And conversation, not so much as a problem, but understanding and getting insights and really knowing, like what it means, right? So as humans, we had to learn how to listen. And that is such a challenge, is because we don't listen, or we try not to listen to understand. We listen to always respond. We listen to argue. We listen to kind of like, or not listen at all. So listening to understand and really comprehend is a skill, and not everybody, or like probably a few really have it. And that, whenever, and then going back to my story, right, with Rolls Royce, is like we thought we listened, we thought we understood, we did interviews, we did everything, but we didn't, because again, we were trying to listen to build something that we already had preconceived notions in our head, just like, okay, well, this is what they want. And it was just like, oh, you said one word, so like, yeah, that validates. But that one word wasn't really kind of like the entire context, right? And so that's like that's the problem that we were trying to do. In fact, Claritative at the start, we built it as a product management tool, where we can understand all of these customer conversations, this user conversations, and then generate insights. So engineers, product managers, developers really get the holistic view of why certain things are needed, understanding the pain, understanding the problem. So, and then these user stories that gets generated is not just like, hey, build a new checkbox or build a new, like a dashboard, right? It's why do you need to build the dashboard? And then having the context around it from multiple conversations, from different points of view, so that as an engineer, as a developer, as a product manager, it's like, okay, now I get it. Now I know why that wasn't working. Now I know why this is work. This is actually what they need. And added to the complexity, especially if you're a SaaS provider, right? Like each company has different workflows. Each company have different ways they use the tools. I mean, like Salesforce, for example. Like I bet you I would go to any organization right now that's using Salesforce. They have a different configuration, they have a different workflow, they have a different methodology, they have different ways of naming certain things. There's no one standard way. And so that for us is like, okay, how do we incorporate all that? How do we bring clarity to conversations so teams become productive? Hence Claritative.
Hence, Claritative. Well, when you talk about an AI that helps with conversations, the first thing that comes to mind, and please correct me where I'm wrong, because this is probably going to be very helpful for people who are listening. Because I use Grok probably more than I use Chat. Chat I think is good for some things, but I prefer Grok for many others. And I can take a transcript and just upload it in it and tell it to summarize. So for the layperson out there who's listening, how is what you're doing, different than someone just kind of manually kind of uploading, uh, because you go into any call these days, something's always popping up and trying to like capture the notes for you. So
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
you kind of give us a
No,
juxtaposition of like what we're talking about here?
no, for sure. And like looking at a transcript and trying to put it into ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, all of these different AI tools, they're great, right? And they'll give you a good summary of the conversation. And that's what a lot of these tools have. Like, let's say, kind of like the Fireflies, the Fathom, all of these other tools, like note-taking tools. It'll summarize the conversation really well. Like, this is what you talked about. What's missing is context. And it's those hidden contexts that's within the tone of voice, within the contribution, within like the even the words that you're using, right? The inflection points. And eventually within your facial what do you call it?
Yeah,
Um
I mean, they're just different expressions. Now, so okay, so question. So this declarative system, um, describe the interface with, say, the end user. So let's say you and I were having a conversation, right? We're having it over Zoom, we're having it over Teams. Is that kind of where this thing happens?
yes, exactly.
So is it capturing video and audio?
So what we've tried to do is, again, a lot of it is part of workflow. Most, I guess, SaaS, they're like they become like, yeah, we have this new platform and we have this new tool. But to be honest, a lot of users, they're so platformed out, right? Like they're, like for my job, like this is our tool set, this is our workflow. And so it's very important, at least for us, to understand what those are. And what's really vital is how do we integrate to a workflow so that we're not adding an extra step. We're not like okay, from here you go to here, then you do this so that you can do your job. Because then you're making it worse. One of our early kind of like feedback users, again, it hurt because when she said this, she was like, "This is not helping me. This is making my job a lot harder." And then we've refined to make it
Oh
better.
man,
So
feedback is golden though, isn't it?
yeah, no, of course, of course. And so, like, just going back to my previous point. So, what's important was that how do we integrate? How do we integrate to these different tools? And we partnered with a really great startup called Interactor that enables that for us. Now, why is that important? Because then, do we need to build integration ourselves? That's not our core value. Our core value is understanding conversations. So like it's identifying like who do we partner within the ecosystem that can enable us to like to solve problems for our customers. So integration was a big point, right? So like as like to answer your question, if I'm in a Zoom, everybody's using Zoom. Everybody's using Teams. Everybody's using Meet. Do I need to have a bot that actually joins? Hey, so and so's bot has joined your call, but the person that actually need to have the meeting is not on the call yet. But their agent, their AI bot agent, is already there. So I can't start the conversation. So that was, like, so for us, I was like, okay, why can't we just like all of these tools already have recording functionality, can already capture the audio? Why don't we just integrate? Why don't we just become part of the ecosystem? So they don't have to have something else that they need to enable. They can just be using the tools that they already have. We integrate, we get those, we capture those, analyze it within Clartiv, and then spit out. Now, if they want, they can go into the platform to view the data, or if they're using a CRM or any other tools, then we can push it to those tools.
So
Um,
so I think it's smart to integrate like that because again, you don't want to have to add or click or there's so many little, add-ons and bolt-ons everywhere. You're right. I mean, it's just a point of exhaustion. Like, oh, another widget. So tell me, who is the customer that you're trying to attract? Because from
yeah,
what I can see, it's you're trying to get into the sales side of things.
exactly. And I think that was part of our journey as a startup as well. I think I mentioned earlier, our first kind of like mindset was focus on product or product development, product engineers, product managers. Um, like although we've solved that problem, it wasn't, like there wasn't a great fit. So then we pivoted or we transitioned into sales. One, because salespeople have a lot of conversations. Two, salespeople are terrible at note taking, um, right? And
Spot on.
they have their own understanding and biases. So how do we actually capture that? And plus, we've had several interviews with sales leaders, and they said like every time I go into a new position as a sales leader, one of the first things implementation that I do is have a way to capture my sales conversation so I can generate insights. And that gives them the data to be able to say, now I know where my deals are at. Now I don't have to keep asking my agents to say, like, hey, where are we with this? Where are we with that? They have the data aggregated. So like, okay, I know the health of certain deals. I know where I need to focus. I know where I need to help. As a leader, that's very valuable.
So there's
Um,
a dashboard then that they can go in and look at, by sales rep, the conversations that they're having. What other kind of features, like if I was a VP sales, I think I'd want to look across deals and see, I don't know how you do it, like green, yellow, red, or something that shows progress or the sales rep is stalling, not quite understanding. So how are you making it, a practical coach and teaching guide for for the sales leader?
so we have different ways of achieving that. We made the platform so, as much as possible, very minimal human effort or intervention to tag label whatever, or make changes to the data. So how do we make it so easy that, like, we analyze a conversation and it gives you the data that you just kind of review, right? Now, we've also put in the ability to configure or customize our platform, because not every conversation is the same, right? Like a board meeting is different from a client meeting, is different from a discovery call. It's different from a kind of like an update, a sales update where you just want to see progress. And those have different goals, those have different purposes. So we put into the platform the ability to kind of configure it where the purpose is determined, so that the outcome, what is the outcome? What is the kind of like the topics that you want generated can be generated based out of your specific need, right? Now, with that, what we've tried to do is make it so that we can configure or slice and dice the platform depending on your use case. So we have what we call spaces. A space is we call it like a walled area within Clartiv. Now, that what that means then is that you can add people to that space, permission to that space. So it could then be per account. So you have your agents that like working on certain accounts, and only they and you would have access. So you'll see within the dashboard the health of that account. What topics are generated? What are like what are the problems? What are the questions? All of that then is aggregated so that you see like, okay, well, this is something's coming up. Now, um like we have like kind of like different ways of we have different dashboards as well. So like if like from spaces, depending on who the agent is, you can filter it based out of, here are the calls of this person in my team. And then you can look at kind of like the sentiment analysis based out of voice tonality, right? Is it positive, is it negative? And then you can start to try to learn over time, is something going on? Like, is the beginnings of the call more positive, or towards the end of the call that's more positive? So what's happening, right? Then you can use that as another kind of like layer to validate, like how things are going. Now, going back to coaching, we have a specific what we call mode or category where we can analyze a conversation, and we don't analyze the entire conversation. We analyze a specific person. So we'll analyze the agent or the like the internal team, the salesperson themselves, on how they perform. How's their product knowledge? How's their empathy? How are they at answering questions? So again, based out of that, it's a different kind of mindset. So like sales leaders can use this for training. You look at that. Okay, for this dashboard, your product knowledge is good, but here are ways that you can get better.
So
Your
this is it's incredible how many facets of this you can have and how you build it into the dashboard. I would imagine I have two questions that come to me. I'm a VP sales, and I've got, you know, let's say I'm in a flat organization and I don't have sales directors, or maybe I'm a sales manager and I've got 10 sales reps. So having to analyze, all calls that all 10 sales reps make a day would be overwhelming. So I'm kind of curious how you handle the volume. And then secondly, I'm kind of curious about maybe industry or maybe the complexity of sale. I'm kind of curious how you're segmenting the market as where you think this is a good fit.
Yeah.
So let's
So
start with the volume problem first.
going back to that question, right? So you're a sales leader, a VP of sales, and you have a team of 10, and they're doing 10 calls per, like let's just say per day or per week. That's 100. Realistically, if you want to do, like you still want to do your job, you can review maybe at most 5% of those calls. So that leaves 95% unreviewed, right? So from a volume perspective, there's a big gap of of what can or what needs to be analyzed. And so that's where we can, like kind of like help, right? Because then it becomes like Claritative will analyze all those conversations. Now the VP of sales will just look at the kind of like the dashboard What are the key things? What are the key insights that I need to watch out for this person, for this person, for this person? So when I'm coaching, I can then have my one-on-one. Okay, well, based out of your week, like here are things that you can work on, and put that into another level. Then it becomes more self-directed, right? So I, as a VP of sales, can say, okay, well, like following they or the salesperson themselves can follow, look at
And go in
the
and check their own progress.
exactly, right?
Yeah,
So
I
it's
think
not.
to me that's where this is it's a game changer because you really want to perfect your craft, and they say you need 10,000 hours. So your new people should just be going into this thing, at the end of the day, first part of the morning, and just reviewing, you know,
Yeah.
and just look for opportunities to get better. So what about the industries now? Are there certain industries that this is more tailor made for just because maybe the complexity? I could think maybe an IT solution, maybe something in engineering where I don't know how maybe engineering is a bad example, but
No, no, for sure. And I think like in this industry specific, we're our I want to say our the where like the middle of our Venn diagram, I guess you could say, is mid market B2B sales teams between 25 to 100 people that have a pretty good sales structure with so much data that they don't really know what to do with it. And the problem with that is that, like they want to get better, they have their processes, but, like they just are overwhelmed, right? So that's kind of like our key, um, kind of like target market, especially in industries with longer sales cycles. Not
well,
necessarily
so
like,
you mentioned mid market, so maybe just explain that, and then are there you haven't mentioned like an industry like IT or manufacturing. So maybe you're thinking you're just agnostic. It doesn't really matter.
yeah, it's more agnostic. And like as a startup, you're always so focus on one industry, focus on a small niche, and we have in a little bit, but
I got you. I mean,
yeah.
this is a tool that can be used, pretty broadly. I was just curious if you had, had gotten any feedback around that. Um, so for folks that maybe don't know, can you explain mid market what that means?
So for us, like mid market are, I guess, companies with at least 100 to 500 employees,
Hmm.
um, maybe making from like let's just say 10 million to 500 million revenue. Um,
Yeah. So it's just the way that you categorize the size of
it's
the company.
exactly,
You're
yeah,
not going for the really small company because they probably maybe don't have the sophistication. They're not far enough along in the process. Maybe they haven't hired enough salespeople.
yeah.
And then you get to the big monster
Or they're
companies.
still trying to learn, right? They're still trying to kind of like figure out what's really working. Like our key demographic, at least for us, are the ones that we sort of know what works, or we know what works, but we just need to we need a better way of implementing it, so that our like the people that we have can accelerate, right? Accelerate their learning, like reduce their what do you call it? The
All
time
those
to
like
close the
repetitive tasks and things like that.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, you know what we're going to have to do? I think next time we do a podcast, we're going to have to get in and do a demo
No, for sure. I would
because I
love
think
that.
a demo is going to really help people see it and kind of check it out.
Yeah.
So what are some of your big goals or big rocks that you're looking to move here in 2025?
So we've actually, I talked about mid market, I talked about sales, and we talked about trying to do a focus, right? We've actually identified our core focus, at least for this year. And those are sales conversations in trade shows. Because
Oh, okay.
virtual,
So getting into trade, going to trade shows and
yes,
so what like a sales conference?
a sales conference or like an industry trade show, like any, like to be honest, any trade shows. Like you go to an expo, like
it, like if businesses are showing up, that lets you meet with potential decision makers there.
and then the target is not the attendees. The target is our target is the exhibitors, because their problem, like let's say just the note taking kind of aspect. If we try to compete within the note taking aspects, as you mentioned earlier, in like in our conversation, There's like the Otter, the Fireflies, the Phantom, all of
Oh
these,
yeah, so many choices.
so many choices, right? Trade shows. Um, and we've done our research, we've done our conversations. Like, there's no way of being able to capture and analyze all of those conversations so you know who to follow up with, what to say, what, like what those attendees care about. So by being able to provide that to the exhibitors, it makes their ROI so much better, right? Because
I love
then
it.
their follow-ups become like, or their follow-ups don't, like, stay as, hey, we met at the show and here is, here is who we are again, and then gives this like speech about us. Instead, the follow-up becomes, hey, we met at the show, I remember you asked this question, I know this is, like, based out of our conversation, this is what you care about. Well, here is how we can help you achieve that goal. I mean, if you
Yeah.
compare both messages, it's night and day, right?
It is absolutely night and day. I just love where this technology is going. There's so much here, so much help that salespeople need, that sales leaders need. It's fantastic. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to link down in the show notes how people can connect with you on LinkedIn, a link to your company site, and next time we get together, let's pull the hood back and let's I don't know, let's take a look at some of these calls. It could be a lot of fun. Sean, great to see you again, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tony. I really, really, really appreciate you for having me. Thank you.
Oh man, it's always good to pick up on a new and fancy IT. I can't say AI.
Can't say AI.
Can't say AI.
We're solving a real problem. And then
That's right. That's right. Okay, we'll see you soon, my friend.
All right, thanks, bud.